Welcome to everyone. I am so happy to see such a great turnout. I'm Wendy Yawching, founder of Healing Spaces Caribbean and also known as the Tribe Mom of the Find Your Fire Tribe. And for those members of you in the tribe, you know that every Monday and Friday we have special events. On Friday, we always bring in an interesting chi-enhancing speaker to share with the tribe. And today we have a most special person, someone that I think the world of, and I always have. I've known her for many years and seen her journey. We have Shannon Hutchinson, first officer, artist, adventure traveler, carnival queen, bodybuilding enthusiast, and God knows what else. Shannon is one of those women you have to say is both a Renaissance woman and a warrior in her own right, as well as a very, very kind and sweet person. And I like her. I think the world of her. So Shannon is going to share with us her journey to becoming Shannon, the Shannon that we know. And I have to tell you that when I grow up one day, I would like to be just like Shannon. Shannon, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you so much for that really special introduction. And for those of you guys, hey, I've always looked up to Wendy, and my only regret is that I never got to fly with you, Wendy. Anyway, I'm gonna share my screen here. Now, I might fly planes, but I don't do this very often. So let's see. Are you all seeing my pictures of me as a little girl?
We are. I am.
Yes, we are.
All right, great.
Yes.
Well, I grew up in Cuba. I'm a country girl, and that's me there with my geese. I had 6 of them, and my dad used to fly, so I would always play with his cap, and I grew up in the cockpit. I loved flying, and I really didn't know anything else. Like I would go to work with my dad, and I would curl up behind his seats in the L1011, and I would sleep when we would, cross the ocean and get to wherever we were going. I loved flying, and I also loved art very much. So let me go across here. So and I'm going to stop sharing the screen just for a moment and come back. So can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah. So when I went to high school, I was showing a lot of my artwork at the time. Like I had exhibitions, and I started showing my work when I was 14, and I had my first solo exhibition when I was 15, and that was a huge deal. And as time came for me to apply to go to university, of course, I'd applied to all these fantastic universities, and I got accepted, and I won scholarships to study art. And I was 16, 17 at the time. And I went to my guidance counselor, and I told him, I said, Mr. Gillespie, I remember his name so well, Mr. Gillespie, I know I'm meant to go to university to study art, but I really want to fly. And he laughed, and he said, Shannon, artists do not become pilots. And I said, okay. And I left, and I spent the summer actually in Trinidad. I went to Brico Air Services, which is still around today, and I did my private pilot's license over the summer. And of course, when it came time to deciding whether to accept all of these amazing opportunities to study art abroad or go on to go flying, I did decide to go flying, and I became the artist who became a pilot. So let me go back to the screen here. So this is me. I was 17. I was so young. I feel like I'm a whole different human being now, but I was 17 at the time. That's a very, very long time ago. Back in 2001, actually. So in 2001, I went on to do my commercial multi-IFR, my commercial license in Canada. And when I was finishing up my license, 9/11 happened. So there were no jobs. Like people had lost their jobs. The industry, was struggling at that time. And it was kind of like the worst time to have finished your pilot's license. So what I did is I actually, and you'll realize this as I keep talking, is I took it as an opportunity, and I went back to school and I went to university to study arts, and I actually finished my Bachelor of Fine Arts a couple of years later. I did a 4-year degree in 3 years, and I finished my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Florence, Italy, where I did my thesis, and I actually did my fine arts thesis on flying. It all had all to do with flying. So the body of art that I did, the thesis was the transience of time and space in flight, and it just had to do with it were very, very large seascapes with the view from above. And when a viewer would walk past the painting or stand in front of it, you kind of felt like you were floating in space. Very similar to like if you were in a cockpit and you're moving very, very quickly, but also you do feel as if you're suspended in time and space. So I did my fine arts thesis. I came back to Trinidad. 7 years later, I got my flying job. And so we have the right slide there. So 7 years later, I actually got hired with, I started working with Tobago Express, and I wasn't flying with them, but I was delivering water to the crews on in the aircraft, and I was helping schedule flights and that kind of thing. I worked in crew scheduling, and then when they were absorbed by Caribbean Airlines, I worked in crew scheduling there as well. And I remember going to my boss at the time and telling him, like, I can't afford this job. Like, it's not really helping pay my rent or anything. And I was actually supplementing my job with them, with my painting, because I was still showing and selling my artwork back then. And I was quite young. I was in my early 20s. And he said, Shannon, don't worry, we're hiring soon, and just hang in there. And I did. I got my flying job finally. I flew the Dash 8 for many years. I left briefly and then returned, and I started flying again, flying the ATR. And I was on the turboprop fleet for about 6 or 7 years. And then I moved over to the 737, which I know is what Captain Yawching also flew, and what my dad flew as well at the end of his career. Before he retired. And again, like, my only regret was I never got to fly with Captain Yawching. I never got to fly with my dad, but it was and is and always has been for me, because I've been in the airline industry now for a little, maybe 10 or more years. And it's always been just such a fulfilling job. Like, you get to leave everything behind. When you're in the cockpit, it's just you and your captain and your crew, and it's so enjoyable. And I remember in chatting with Captain Yawching a few years ago, we talked about the magic of flight, and it really is. It's one of those very, very special jobs. And I see her smiling, so I know she remembers. Let me go and see what else we have here. Oh, this is special. So this is actually a picture of my first landing in the 737. It's nice that it's a picture, because I'm not sure if it may have been a great landing, it may not, but it's pretty cool. Like, it's a pretty special photo there, and that's of course me in the cockpit. I'm in Canada now, but a few years ago when I was still in Trinidad, I was also one of the under 40 influencers with the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs. And so myself and a bunch of other influential young people would go around to the different local schools. This is, of course, before COVID. And we would talk to the kids and talk to them about life and our lives, and how the different struggles that we had, and try to motivate them and just show them that, look, this is where we came from, and this is what you can do and what you can be. And I was the pilot. There were musicians, there were artists, there were designers, a really amazing group of people, and I was very honored to be part of that program. I'm also an avid adventure traveler. And if it seems like I forget sometimes the many things that I do, it's because I do. Anyway, I'm an avid adventure traveler, and these pictures are from Kilimanjaro. I summited Kilimanjaro a number of years ago, and I actually went with 4 other female pilots. It was very special, and it was really the jumping off point to me diving more into adventure travel. I mean, I'm a Couva girl, and I was always accustomed to hiking and going out in the bush with a cutlass when I was a little thing. If you remember this a few slides back, the little girl with the geese. So I used to go with my dad, and we would go hiking behind the house because it was just it was a jungle to me, you know. So he really, my dad really inspired me to be adventurous, between taking me out when I was little behind the house. And then, of course, whenever we traveled, we'd always do something very similar. Well, not similar to this in that we summited mountains together, but he took me everywhere. And I was pushed to do and try everything. And so that's Kilimanjaro. That's the highest freestanding mountain in the world, actually. And then I went to Everest several years later. Wendy mentioned that I am a carnival queen, and I remember that day well. I crossed the stage as a queen in my big costume, and then I had my mom pick me up on the other side of the stage in the savannah, and she took me straight, well, not straight to the airport, but we went home, I changed, and I went straight to the airport right after that to go on my amazing Mount Everest adventure. It was really cool. It was really funny. My guide, my Sherpa, he was 19 years old, and his name was Dragon. And I remember him laughing at me because my nails were still gold from Carnival. But anyway, I had an amazing time, and it's just another incredible journey that I went on. And I've also done a lot of glacial treks. I've done the Salcante trek in Peru and several others, but these were the most important ones to me. And that's me as an artist. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of my artwork is aviation inspired. So I'll just say I have to these are my little minis, runways, storms, and then the view of the horizon and the sun setting or rising. And that's it. That's it for my slides. Since COVID, I'm one of the pilots that I did lose my job. But as I mentioned earlier, I do look at setbacks as opportunities. So I knew that I was moving, and so I took the opportunity to, well, when I lost my job, I had another art show. So I had a lot going on, as I always have been. I had another show. I became an author during COVID. I very, very recently moved country. I'm actually in Canada now. My husband is Canadian, and we were separated over COVID. So I finally get to be here with him for the first time ever, which is really lovely. I've been doing many exams over the last couple weeks and months to convert the licenses that I have so that I can work up here, and that's it. Like you now know everything. Like I in the last, I don't know, that might have been about 10 or so minutes, that you are more updated than most people in my life here.
Shannon,
So,
what do you do in your spare time?
oh, what spare time? No, I love to draw and paint. I'm really I like staying healthy, so I do really normal things. I go to the gym with my husband, and I like the really normal, pretty normal life. I'm a pretty old-fashioned girl, so I've actually been enjoying being home with my husband and cooking, and I enjoy being part of the rescue community, and that's something I didn't mention a little earlier. So I rescued a bunch of cats. So you might see in the background a few of them hanging around.
We saw pigtails by.
Yeah. Yeah. I have another show coming up in September, so I'll be working on that once things calm down with the exams that I'm doing at the moment. I have some painting that I have to get done for the show.
Shannon, would your next show be in Trinidad or online or in Canada?
It will be in Trinidad, and the cool thing is my not my show last year, but the year before when COVID first happened, I was actually the first person to have, or at least regionally, to have an online exhibition. And it was really successful actually, because it allowed more people to be at my opening. And my openings have always been really busy, like party-like atmosphere. A lot of people always come because I've been showing my work for way longer than I've been flying. So, you know, maybe a little more than 20 years. So I have a nice following in Trinidad, but it's nice that I'm able to still have my show and my work physically in Trinidad, but I can share my work with anyone that joins in the live opening. And then of course, they can see the work after virtually as well. It's been nice that way to be able to share my work in that way.
Yeah, going global. That's what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now,
exactly.
Anybody want to talk to Shannon about anything? This is your time. Here she is.
Any questions? I know I feel like I went through that so quickly. There's so many things in my life that I could expound upon. So if there's anything in particular you want to hear more about, please feel free.
So here's my very naughty question.
Tell me. I love naughty questions.
So when I studied, well, my husband and I were always in two different countries until 2 years after we got married. Right. So I just want to know if you love him just as much now.
Yeah,
you're together.
Really, yeah.
And you didn't have
we
that.
do. Who would have known, right? I showed up. I have 4 rescue cats. I sent 2 for him during COVID, and then I came with my other 2. So like I'm here, right? No, it's we talk about it often. Like if we could get through COVID, we could get through anything. And
certainly
amazing. Yeah. It's
Understood.
been really lovely. Yeah, it's been
Understood.
nice. He's a pilot also, actually. So
okay.
It's also nice to be married to someone that understands. Like I'm not working right now, but I know when he needs to rest or whatever. And it'll be nice when I do start back working. And when I used to work before, it was nice that we understood each other with the demands of the job and the hours, and we can talk pilot talk to each other, because I have a cute story actually about how we met.
Okay.
So we met on Tinder, it's an online dating app. When I had done a flight to Canada. And we were chatting, and so I said, "Oh, you're a pilot." Well, I actually went to flight school here in Canada. And he was like, "Really? Where?" And I said, "Brampton." And he was like, "Really? What year?" Because I taught there, and I was like, "Oh no, I remember you. I was in your class." He was a ground school instructor. I was like, "I was in your class, and you picked on me." And I spent the next 2 months that I was there avoiding you and your friend. And that was in 2001. That was 20 years ago. And of course, we're entirely different human beings now. And
when did you marry him, Shannon?
Just before COVID. So 2 years ago. Yeah.
Sorry.
I was about to ask a question. So I mean, I asked that naughty question, but really my question is this.
I have another naughty question.
No. This is a real, I hopefully a kind of serious, reflective kind of question.
Yeah.
I just want you, Shannon, just to share some of the questions you asked yourself or you answered for yourself every time you made that transition from one stage to the next. What are some of the things you just learned about yourself, or either questions or things that
transitions like the transitions in my life, there've been many. I've had many ups and downs. Like I was married before and I went through a horrible, awful, movie-worthy divorce, and I've lost my job, and I had to wait 7 years start flying, but I've had some really incredible life experiences as well. And so I have a rule for myself. Like, if there's something that I can't control, I'll give myself like 5 or 10 minutes to cry about it or be upset. And then I need to not cry about whatever it is or be upset about it. And I need to just be like, okay, like accepting, like accept, oh, this is where I'm at. And I have about 10 other things that I can do, right? Because I think I guess I'm lucky, I've set my life up like that, right? So when I lost my job, I had an art show to work on. I had a book I was writing for. I also did the cover of the book. I was moving. I rescued a bunch of cats, and I kept doing things that I enjoy because I have collected a number of things that I like to do or that make me happy, you know. And another thing is, I'm really different, and I'm like, I get a lot of heat for being different, you know. I'm also like, I'm a woman in aviation, and I was a really young female artist, and I see Michelle there. Hi, Michelle. Michelle actually is the woman that put together all these strong ladies to do this book that I was part of, that I just mentioned. So that's it, I guess. Like, I have a rule, and I can't be upset about something for more than a very, very short time, and then I find a way to enjoy life with what I have. And that's kind of it. I don't know does that answer your question?
It's fine. Great. Good.
Now, Shannon, guess what?
Yeah.
Anybody who has any questions for Shannon, we'll hold them now till the end, because I've been told I have to say a few words as well. So
yes. So
Shannon is taking it.
Captain Yawching, I've looked up to you forever, for as long as I've known you, and I've known you a long time. Captain Yawching is the first female pilot in Trinidad. I'm sure regionally as well, the first female captain. Captain Yawching has also has healing spaces. She's a Feng Shui master. Did I say that right?
Close.
You're right. And she's actually come and done, is it done? I'm going to sound so done Feng Shui on one of my homes, actually, and it was a beautiful, lovely experience. And I've looked up to you forever. I'm so honored that you asked me to be part of this, and the floor is yours. Tell me a bit about yourself. Tell me how you started.
You just said you looked up to her, so clearly you know a lot about her.
Hi, Robert Amoroso. Good to see you. There's another young pilot there. I have to have a little disclaimer by Kathleen. Kathleen says she has to run. I have a little disclaimer. I'm not the first female captain in the Caribbean. I was the second female pilot at BWIA, and the first female flying pilot. The other one who came before me was a flight engineer. And so I was the only first one in a flying position, and therefore the first female captain at BWIA. But there were female captains at Air Jamaica before our BWIA caught up. So, and I give them due honor for that. So I'm going to try to share my screen and hopefully show you guys a couple of pictures as well. Let's see what happens. So here's my story, and you're welcome to laugh.
So they say hi to you too.
Good.
Everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
This was me.
Somebody needs to mute their mic because we get interference.
Yeah, hey, Robert, could you mute your mic, please, honey? Thank you. Okay, everyone. So my name was not Wendy. My name was Fatso for all of my life. And in fact, even now, if I go through any airport in the world and I hear the word Fatso, I know it's my brother calling me from across the airport. Doesn't matter how skinny I get, I'll always be Fatso. You see that face, that determined little face? It served me well throughout my life because I had to break all the rules. Shannon said that she gets flack because she's different, but she came 30 years after me. And I know that's giving you a few ideas of how old I am. But imagine what it was like growing up with that pig-headed, determined desire to be a pilot in the generation that I was in. So when I was young, so let's say about 8 or 9 or 10 years old, there were 3 things I really wanted to be. I wanted to be a forest ranger in Africa with lions and tigers and panthers as my pets. I wanted to be a ballerina, and I wanted to fly airplanes. Now, because of the fatso part, I never really got that far with the ballerina. That is actually a picture of me, and that was fun. I enjoyed doing it, but in terms of being thrown it through the air with the greatest of ease by, ballerinos, it probably wasn't going to happen. The forest ranger with lions and tigers, I sort of realized that might be a little tricky in Trinidad. And the one that kept my heart and never went away was the idea of flying jets. So I was going to be a pilot. The only problem was that in my time in Trinidad, the answer to everything, everybody, everyone that I said that to was, girls don't do that. Have you ever heard of a lady pilot? Do not go there. You smart, Wendy, you can do anything you want, but nobody's ever going to let a lady fly a plane. Who would give you a job? I was told that no by everyone, my family, my friends, my teachers, my counselors, my peers. I heard that answer throughout my life, growing up through high school. So I was funneled into, I was very smart. So I did all kinds of exams at O levels and A levels, and I got all the right paperwork. But by the end of high school, I really actually believed that I could never be a pilot. So when I left high school, I did what the closest thing I could do to becoming a pilot. I became a flight attendant. So that picture, the cracked picture at the top right, is a picture of me doing 3 wonderful years as a flight attendant at BWIA. And I learned a lot, I traveled a lot, I made wonderful friends, some of them are still friends, and I was as close as I could ever be in my mind to being in the cockpit. I was serving the cockpit. I was on the airplane. I was up in the sky, but I never actually believed then that I could become a pilot. It just was not done. And then because my mom encouraged us to get as high education as we could, and she wanted us to be able to take care of ourselves, her girls, I saved my pennies and I went away to Canada to study, following my sister. I had to work and study because I didn't have that much money. And of course, it's the exchange rate didn't favor us. So it took me 5 years to do a 4-year program because I was working and studying as I went along. And I have no regrets about that because it was a really good degree. And in those 5 years, everything changed. Living in Canada on campus with a bunch of girls from all over the world, including Canadians, showed me girls who were driving trucks, running the engineering society, doing wiring and electrical work, going hiking and camping and canoeing and all those things that at that time girls in Trinidad didn't do. I was a little Trinidadian princess who had then become a flight attendant, become even more of a princess, and went up to Canada. In my first year, I tried to slog across a huge campus in the snow in my high heel shoes, because that's what girls did in Trinidad at that time. And I was surrounded by girls who were hiking mountains and camping and getting all muddy and putting canoes on their heads. And it took me a little while to get into that. My first trip I did, I hated it. But then I began to love it. And so when I came back, let's not jump there. At the end of those 5 years, I sort of went like this and said, girls around me are doing anything they want, and I still want to be a pilot. Why can't I be a pilot? Those years changed everything. I suspect if I had not gone to Canada and had stayed in Trinidad at that time in Trinidad, because nobody in my family supported or even thought it was possible for me to fly, I would not have become a pilot until maybe much, much later when things started to change in our culture. So Canada accelerated my transition. Canada changed my life. And for that, I give it huge thanks. So now I started to learn to fly. So I have similar pictures to Shannon's, flying days. I did all kinds of licenses. That was a journey in itself, lots of excitement. When I got my licenses, I got some experience by becoming a flight instructor in Toronto. And then I landed my first job at Liat Caribbean, 1974 Limited. based out of Antigua and flying the little Caribbean islands. And those were the years when I really learned to fly. I started on the Twin Otter, that's the little airplane at the top right of this picture. It took 19 passengers and it landed in all the weirdest little places, in Union Island, in Carriacou, in Canefield, Dominica. And I remember, I mean, it's really funny stories, but how you land in Union Island. Fly straight at the house with the green roof, turn right at the laundry line, and then dive for the runway, and don't forget to stop before you run into the sea. Landing in Carriacou. Clear to land, says air traffic control, but look out for cows on the runway. Those are stories you can only get when you're flying in places like that. And it was really wonderful learning. And I became the pilot that I grew into because of those years at Liat. And I left Liat. My last year at Liat, I flew the Dash 8, which is the one at the bottom right. And that plane is the one that Shannon was talking about. So it was her first turboprop. And that's the plane that was flying between Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados and Grenada for BWIA for many years before they changed it to the ATR, which is what they have now. I think somebody should, could you mute your mic? I think it might be Marjorie now.
Oh, do you hear something? I'm sorry.
I'm hearing some sounds coming through someone. Thank you. So those Liat years were great, but guess what? I wanted to fly the jets. I wanted to fly the big, fast, powerful planes. So when BWIA called me in 1988, I said, bye Liat, and I jumped ship. Now, I have to tell you, BWIA called me at the exact same moment, month, week that Air Canada called me, because I was also, able to fly in Canada. And I had to choose between Trinidad, MD-83 jet, and Air Canada, Winnipeg, flying in the third pilot position, which means you're not really flying yet, you're a flight engineer. Well, there was no question, cold flight engineer or warm co-pilot. I went to BWI. So here I am on my first jet. Oh boy, that was fun. That's the MD-83 top right, a sleek, skinny, razor blade airplane. If you didn't know how to fly that plane, it flew you. Again, I learned some serious flying skills flying that airplane, and I loved every minute of it. And then BWIA phased those airplanes out and transitioned to the 737, and that was one of their intermediate logo designs, that one that the green and yellow one you see in the bottom right picture. And in fact, it had there were some cute nicknames for it, including the flying grapefruit. But really, BWIA was trying to showcase our national instrument, the steel pan. But that didn't necessarily, wasn't really understood by many people abroad. So those are the two jets that I had the privilege to fly, and I totally enjoyed and loved it. And I was a first officer, that's with the 3 bars, for those of you who are not into aviation, for 12 years. And then just about 1999 to 2000, I became the first lady captain at BWIA. And I have to say, for those of you who doubt it, for those of you who are struggling, for those of you who are wondering, dreams can come true. I probably took the longest road to become a pilot. I was a flight attendant. Then I studied mathematics and computer science in university for 5 years. Then I studied, oh, I forgot to tell you, when I was learning to be a pilot, I had no money. My parents didn't have the money. I had no money. I had to work and study, work and study. It took me 4 years to get my pilot's licenses, which most people, if you have a ton of money, can do it within a year. I had to work and study. I remember doing 6.5-day weeks, 3 days in my computer job. I was working freelance just so that I could teach for 3.5 days, half a day to do laundry, groceries, take a little rest, and start again the next day, because I love flying so much and I was building up my experience. But I had to work every step of the way. When people see me in my uniform, at any point they see a pilot in the uniform, they usually go, wow, oh my God, I wish I was a pilot. Oh, they're so lucky. I have to tell you, yeah, I was lucky, but I also worked really hard and the journey was tough. I just never lost sight of my dream. You see that little beady-eyed girl with a pouty mouth? That determination, that never went away. So that's what got me there. I worked hard, said my prayers, worked hard some more, and yes, I had luck. And I actually felt like I was the luckiest girl in the world that I could live my dream. But don't ever judge somebody by the uniform. Get to know their journey. It's always very deep, very rich, and very interesting. And if they can do it, so can you. Now, memorable moments. of course, flying. You see the sides of that engine? I love that. Flying with a female pilot. That young lady with me in the right seat there is now a captain. She's one of several captains at BWIA right now. There's how many captains, Shannon?
Female captains, there are only, I think, 2.
Oh, I thought they were more, Monique and Karen, but I've flown both of them. So Karen on the top right, Monique in the bottom picture. That was actually a picture, a snapshot taken from our first all-female flight. I believe we went into New York. Historic moment for BWIA, and so we had press opportunities, etc. I tended to be low profile and keep a little bit, try to stay under the radar, but that flight, it was inescapable. And I have to tell you, those were the days before cell phones. So I personally don't have a lot of pictures of myself in uniform. Nowadays, of course, selfies and pictures everywhere and nice ones too. So these are what I have. And I have to tell you another memorable moment was not only the female flying with an all-female crew, that was special, but flying with an all-male crew. I remember walking through New York or Toronto, little female captain, followed by 5 big men, because all the flight attendants were male, and stopping traffic, because that was as unusual to the audience, to the people who were watching, as seeing an all-female crew. Both of those were making history, and I was a part of that, and I loved them. It was really fun. In my spare time, I did all kinds of weird things, including what Shannon loves to do in adventure travel. Yes, I have jumped out of perfectly good airplanes. I've done bungee jumping. I've traveled much of the world, not all of it. I have done a lot of hiking. I think I've hiked in most of the major mountain ranges in the world, including the Alps and the Andes and the Southern Alps in New Zealand. And yes, I've also, I think in 1992, Shannon, went up to Mount Everest Base Camp, but I didn't quite make it. I turned around 100 feet short of Mount Everest Base Camp because one of our team, one of our group was really ill and had to go down. So I could see it, I could reach to it, I could breathe it, but I didn't go. So I'm the first Trinidadian lady pilot to almost make it to Everest Base Camp. And yes, the picture of the people in the grass skirts, on one memorable trip to the South Pacific, where I stayed for 6 months and traveled around camping and staying in youth hostels with a backpack, living very simply. I also spent time living in Vanuatu and little islands in grass huts with people who literally wore grass skirts or nothing. Very amazing life, very interesting. I just still can't believe it's my life. And when I was in Trinidad, because traveling had taught me about taking care of the environment, how precious Mother Nature is, I started an eco-adventure company called Wildways, Caribbean Adventure Travel. And the purpose of Wildways for me, it was my dream to show people, Trinidadians and foreigners alike, just how wonderful the natural life of Trinidad was. And so we would take people into the bush, on the water, in the forest, on the rivers, and teach them the love and care of the environment. And one of the things for which I'm particularly proud was a school program that won 3 different awards. One of them was international, that I designed and that we gave to the kids of Trinidad and to a couple of Tobago schools, that introduced the children over a period of 2 months to the care of the environment, the whys, the love of it, the touching and the feeling and the immersion in it. And that was one of the things I could say I'm really proud that I did in my life. So somewhere along the line, it became time to retire. But for me, retirement did not mean doing what everybody thinks I'm doing, which is sitting on the beach, having rum punch. I actually got more busy since I retired than I was when I was flying, and that was quite busy. So yes, I've become a Master Feng Shui consultant. My company, or my consultancy, I should say, is Healing Spaces Caribbean. And that is a vehicle for me to help people of all ages and stages all over the world, whoever needs me or wants me, to change the energy in their lives. And I love doing that. It's now my passion. And the Fire Tribe, the Find Your Fire Tribe, which is why the forum for these Friday events, is one of the places and the ways that I touch people's lives, by doing conversations like this with Shannon. In my spare time, I'm a competitive ballroom and Latin dancer that has taken a sideline since COVID. I love the outdoor sports, so kayaking and hiking and swimming and scuba diving, you name it, I'll do it. My message to any of you who might be stumbling or being stuck or wondering what to do with your life: don't let anybody tell you what you can't do. be limitless. Reach for your dreams. You never know where you're going to end up. Live your biggest and best life. That's it. Back to you guys.
That was beautiful. I learned so much more about you than I, I mean, I knew that you'd gone to Everest as well, and I knew that we'd done very many similar things, but it's funny seeing the picture of you with Karen in and having an all-female flight deck crew. My first and only all-female crew experience was with her as well as a captain. And it was very special. It was over during COVID, actually. We were paired together for a month. So for a month, it was the same crew, all-female crew we were based in Guyana at the time.
Thank you, Shannon. So anybody have any questions? I have to tell you all that this is actually the first time I've come out of the pilot closet on Facebook, on the internet, online to a big group. So I tell the story when I'm asked to, I think for when I'm doing motivational talks, I would tell the story, but actually go online and share it widely the way I'm doing now. And I know many other people are going to see this video is actually an interesting personal growth step for me, because I've always led a very private life. Unlike Shannon, who's always led a very public life. So,
yes, my private life is pretty private considering I'm so public, but of course.
I have tended to keep them all quite private. So this is a big step for me. And I thank you guys for sharing it. And I'd be happy to have any questions for both me, either me or Shannon or both of us. Please, you can unmute and throw them out. We have a few more minutes.
I just wanted to say thank you to both of you. It's such a wonderful experience to listen to you sharing. And I really, really am grateful for you to do that. It's inspiring, and I'm glad that it's going to be out there for more people to be inspired. You're just amazing ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arlene. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions?
Don't be shy.
I'm just tempted to ask you the same question, Wendy, about some of the questions you ask yourself. Sorry?
A mischievous question, Lenise?
No. Just questions about what you ask yourself or the things that you tell yourself as you transition from one thing to the next.
Just do it. Lenise, just do it. I believe that we all have a very huge, limitless power inside of us. Unfortunately, the world tells us otherwise, and sometimes we listen. For me, I go inside and find that power, and I say, just do it. And I start walking and believe that I'll be guided, and I do the work that is needed. I work very, very hard and apply my passion, but I then believe that everything will unfold as it should. I hope that answered your question. Yeah. Christine Francois has a question.
Yes, well, hi everyone. I'm seeing some familiar faces here, and hi, Wendy. Wendy has been a dear friend, and it really does inspire. I look at the time between her stepping onto the cockpit and your time, and there's literally 20 some years between them, and I'm inspired, continue to be inspired. Also a little bit surprised that in this day and age still we've only got 2 or 3 female pilots, and that has got to change. Shannon, I just wanted to let you know you are my sister, because you have 4 rescue cats and I have 5, so are they the best?
Once you have a few, it doesn't matter if you add more, it's all the same.
I know.
Christine, I think there are about 8 female pilots at BWIA, but there are only 2 captains, is that right?
Yes, there are actually quite a few more, because there have been a lot more female hires in recent times, but the number is still very small comparatively. And I can say worldwide, there of all of the captains worldwide, only 3 or 4% of them are female. And worldwide, only 6% female airline pilots, only 6%. So we're like unicorns.
And Christine, that was a huge progression from when I was 1 out of 200 and something. So the numbers have multiplied quite a bit. It's just they're not where they should be. And from now on, when I do conversations like this, my goal is to inspire not more people to be pilots, but more girls to do whatever it is they dream of. And if piloting is that, believe you can and go for it. So the numbers should go up in all the different professions that have, not good ratios at this time. Kalisha, how can we help you?
Hi. Not really a question, but I just want to say that I'm 18 years of age and I actually want to be a pilot. I was inspired more because of Shannon, actually. I met her in March. She's a really sweet person. Her mom, her husband, everyone was really nice. She actually told me a lot about you. That's how I actually first known about you. And it's really nice to see that women be pilots. And I hope one day I become a pilot. I'm really striving towards it. And I hope one day I can meet you. I already met Shannon. Hope one day I can meet you and get your advice and your experience about it.
Kalisha, you just consider yourself met. And if you believe in it and you love it, don't let anybody stop you or any circumstance stop you. You can just keep going towards it.
Yeah, thank you.
Captain Yawching really blazed the trail for all female aviators, certainly in Trinidad. And I know we are forever grateful for it. It's our transition into a very male-dominated industry is easier because of women and powerhouses like her.
I think it's a great time for, it's good to see that young people like Kalisha can potentially be mentored by aviators, female aviators, and maybe that's something I can throw into the ring there. It would be awesome to see that there's a mentorship program, women for women aviators, something like that. I'm just putting my marketing hat on here now.
Have a couple of
yes, you need mentorship, especially when times get tough. And sometimes we don't see the way ahead, but someone who's gone the path before, they know ins and outs that we may not know, or someone who's outside of that world may not have a thought about,
Always. We always need a helping hand up. Now, I have a couple comments in the chat. Farida asked Wendy, what adventure experience stands out the most? Let's ask Shannon that first. Shannon, what adventure experience stands out the most?
To me, it will probably be my Everest trip. Expeditions like that, as outwardly difficult as they are, like you have to be mentally prepared for it because it's a painful journey physically. And you have to take it one step at a time because you're dealing with altitude and all of that. And I felt like it was a moving meditation for me. And you really learn a lot about yourself and what you're able to do. And you're capable of so much more than your mind, that little voice tells you. And so that's why that stands out to me more than maybe some of the other pretty amazing other trips I've done.
Farida, do you still need me to answer that? I think Shannon has done a beautiful job. I can go on to the next question. So Tariq has something to say. And meanwhile, while Tariq is thinking about that, Tara says, it's beautiful hearing this thread of information, inspiration and motivation throughout the ages. Tara, you're making me feel old throughout the ages. Okay, Tariq, talk to us.
Sure, no problem. Obviously, it's very easy to have the benefit of hindsight, when you think of those moments of adversity that you experience throughout your own journey. However, something that I find is always lacking, you always encourage people to just stick to the wicket, stick to the goal, go for it. But can you share some tips that maybe you employed back when you had those external or even those internal paradigms of adversity where you just couldn't get over it? What did you actually do to actually tell yourself, pull the socks up and keep going. Because honestly, I think that's something that's missing in mentorship these days. You know you can get there, but how do you? What tips did you employ?
So Tariq, a lot of what my answer now, and I would love Shannon to pitch in, is based on being where I am now. So hindsight, as you say, when I was a young person growing up, I absorbed the messages from all around me, and I actually didn't, I knew I had lots of talents, but I believed in the talents they told me were okay. And I did not believe I could be a pilot. Shannon, you grew up in an environment where your dad was a pilot and you had that option. I didn't have anybody in my world that supported it, that knew about pilots, that was a pilot. Women weren't pilots. Nobody would ever let a woman be a pilot. So I actually absorbed that. So I grew up I had a wonderful childhood, but in an environment where that option was not possible. So I never lost the love of wanting to be a pilot. That dream was always there, but I actually bought into the program and I was following the program. It was the shift in my environment where I then found myself in a space where other people were doing whatever they wanted to, that allowed me over the 5 years in Canada in university to realize, oh, but girls are doing that. Oh, but girls are doing that. It shifted my paradigm. Nobody in my circle was giving me that message until I went into a different circle. So with hindsight, and over if I was in Canada just for a month, I probably wouldn't have changed, but I was there for 5 years living in campus and, you know, with other students that were doing what they wanted because they had come from different backgrounds. So I became aware that it was possible because of that time. Once I got that, then I never looked back. And then I never let other people's opinions stop me doing whatever I chose to do, whatever felt right to me, important to me. But that transition was not easily won. So I would say now is that if you are surrounded by people who destroy your dream and your hope, then find other people to surround yourself with that will support it and encourage you. Because it's not easy to go for it if you're constantly being bombarded with all the reasons why you can't. Find yourself, as Kalisha was just looking for, find yourself a mentor, find yourself a group, find yourself a support group, find yourself a hiking group, find yourself a connect with online pilot student wannabes, whatever it is you want to do, surround yourself, reach out, make that effort and reach out and touch the people who can support your dream so that you get fed that energy and release the other energy, because it's very hard if you don't. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, just to add to that, because I had a similar but different experience to you, where I was told by everybody, my school, university, my guidance counselor, even my dad didn't want me flying. And yeah, he didn't want me to fly. My mom didn't want me to fly. And then when I went to study art, they didn't want me to study art. They wanted me to do architecture or something that would make money. And so I did all the things that all the people around me told me no. Like I got accustomed to hearing no a lot, and I got really comfortable with being really different. And hindsight is great because I'm nearly 40 and I can look back and wish that I could tell my younger self, it's going to be okay. You can even be more confident than you are because it's all going to be okay. And what all these other people are saying doesn't matter. But of course I can't do that. But what I can do, and what I do when I go to schools, and I was part of the 40 Under 40 initiative, and in a lot of the interviews that I do, I tell people, look, get comfortable with being different, because you're not going to get that dream amazing life without being different, you know. So get comfortable with it. People are not going to be comfortable with you being different because it'll make them feel funny about it, you know. But nobody that's doing more than you is going to tell you not to do what you're doing, you know. And
not only get comfortable with being different, get comfortable with being who you really are. Follow your dream. And yeah, you know, you say you can't go back and talk to your 18-year-old self. Well, I'm planning to. I'm in the process, everyone, of writing my book. That
nice.
Talking to the young people like Alicia who are looking for guidance and mentoring and inspiration about following your dreams. So when it is ready, I'll let you all know.
Well, let us know, because we have a publisher in the chat.
We
Michelle
do.
Bora, we
Michelle,
do.
it's going to be called The Courage to Fly, and it's in progress. Talk to me. Hi, Christine, you had your hand up?
I also think that just from my experience, Caribbean people, from a general perspective, we aren't very big risk takers because many of us have been brought up very conservatively. So for me, I am very comfortable with risk. You know my story. So I tend to do things, I see it, I like it. Oh, I think I could do that. Yeah, let's go try it. Let's just do it. And I throw myself at it. But many times, because we've been socialized not to take risks, we want to take the safe path because that's how we've been socialized. And I think for young people, you've got to find a way to get comfortable with calculated risk, not crazy risk, mind you, calculated risk. And if you educate yourself about the pros and cons and everything to do about what you would like to do, then you can say, you know what, I'm taking this risk. I understand what the benefits are and what could be the pitfalls. And with my mentor, I'm just going to go for it. And guess what? What's the worst that can happen?
Reach for the stars, fall on the moon, I say. Now,
amen. There you go.
Christine. Now we have one more question I'm taking from Farida. She said, would either of you consider doing Virgin Galactic Space Adventure travels? And the answer from me is yes. Before I get too old and doddery, I am going into space. And so whoever gets it sorted out properly first, I'm going to be seeing the world from space. That is my next dream, and I am going to do it.
Yeah, same here. Why not?
So let's hear it. What is your next dream? And with that, I'm going to say, guys, we are on time. So I'm going to say, thank you all for being here with us. Thank you, Shannon Hutchinson, amazing superstar. And thank you for all the lovely questions.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Many blessings.
Thank you guys so much.